Welcome back to ABCs of Antiracism, and today's word is justice. Or, as some people still say, just us. Because it's sad to say, but pretty much in almost any country around the world, justice is hard to find, being meted with equality and balance as the justice symbol represents, which is usually a balanced weight or a person blindfolded holding a weight in balance. That's justice. But as we see and read from news headlines, from movies and documentaries, justice is a concept to find being enacted in reality quite rare. Even in those places where you think people have made progress and are creating a just country or situation, it can just flip on its head. It's happened in the country called Myanmar. And here in this country, the whole aspect of a lack of justice is what sparked the protests of the summer of 2020. And now the injustice continues with the continued murder of Black people, young Black people, by policemen. Now, I do know that police can be brutal and cruel to people of any color in this country. My husband's a white man, and he has some stories to tell of experiences he had and has seen with other of his friends who are white. But the problem is that it's disproportionate. It's out of the pocket for the number of Black people who get killed for the representation of the number of Black people in the population. It's a big contradiction when those whose motto is we serve and protect are actually killing those they should serve and protect. And then, of course, there are the courts and the judges who, contrary to anybody's mouth of it, there are judges on the courts now with clear political ideologies, and I don't care if right, left, upside down, to find a judge without a political bias in 2021 in the United States will be good and also probably challenging. So, what do you do when you live in a time and a place where justice is just us? And that just us could be a military junta like in Hong Kong now, or China, or some of the countries in South America or in Africa, recent countries that have had questionable elections. Or we could be questioning justice here, as we constantly should do in the United States of America. This country, which has once stood as this golden beacon shining on a hill, and now is so sadly mired in a web of words that are confusing and deceptive. So, we're talking about justice. What does justice mean to you? When you consider justice, do you consider the weight of compassion for the person who is committing the crime, as well as the so called victim? Now, there are those who say there are no victims, that on the higher planes of life, everything happens for a reason. And that may be true indeed. But there's also the concept of compassion. And practicing compassion means wanting to alleviate the suffering of others. And that means taking action. Now, it's true that action can be something as simple as a wish or a prayer for a person to be relieved of their suffering, particularly if it's nothing you can help them with. I mean, if you've written all the letters you can for someone on death row, all you can do is pray for him once everything else has failed. All that you can do is send out the wish that his spirit and his being will transcend the bounds he's experienced, and that he can walk through and go through the bardo into a new rebirth, seeing the light and walking into the light. Now, justice. Have you known justice in your life? How many people do you know who've experienced justice? There has been some justice. There is justice. But do we have to depend on people external to us to create justice in our own lives? How many of us strive to find balance in our own families or where we work or even where we go to church or our social clubs? How many teachers teach children about balance, about kindness, about listening to each other, about patience? All of these are qualities for justice. Beyond the written laws that say if you've done this, you do that, if you do it so many times. But what are the circumstances? Who knows what motivates some people to do certain things? But yes, for balance, when people are harmed or property is harmed, there has to be recompense. But justice is something that can happen naturally on the higher planes if you believe in such things as what goes around comes around. For every action, there is an opposite and equal reaction, or some just call it karma. But it's all the same thing. Nothing we do or think or say goes without effect. And we are responsible, especially when we are totally in our right mind. And even when we are sometimes supposedly not in our right mind. By whose definition? So justice can be looked at in more than just one way. First, inculcating and finding justice in our own selves. Looking carefully of what we consider justice, of what you consider justice for your own self. Is it just that you have to work as many hours as you do? Or is your position in the family just? Or as a student, Do you feel that the way the school works and you're learning, is that just? Do you have any input in what you learn or what you want to learn? Oh, and that's something else, which is another topic, but it ties into justice as far as I'm concerned. Is how is it that the state governments or the federal government can tell schools what they can teach? I mean, to me, it's like violation of First Amendment rights, particularly if they're not teaching made up things like there was slavery in America. Martin Luther King was killed. So was President Kennedy. Black people were hung. So many black people a year are killed by the police still in 2021. These are facts. It is not any theory. It's facts. Of course, that has become questionable in this age of the media and social media and technology, in which people can put anything on a social media and people will believe it. But if you present to people statistics, government research, of course, they can manipulate that. So then it becomes, well, we know from our own experience of what has happened and continues to happen. So paramount importance is first to stop killing each other, particularly those who are supposed to be protecting the public. Then we work on getting, as we are constantly working on getting economic equality, or there's always the option, which Africans are organizing and offering to Black Americans to go to Africa to work and help build the most wealthy and largest country in the world. And those of us who are Black Americans, most of us have some roots in Africa. Now, that's another option, which has always existed, but is now even of more importance. And there's actually an organization that's dedicated to connecting the African diaspora to the African mother homeland. And that's called ALDI. And I'll tell you more about that later. Thank you for dropping by. Please subscribe, review, and share a comment if you want to help support the production of Vibrant Velvet Voice podcast, or to experience an ancestral, racial, or spiritual story healing circle. Become a patron. Visit www.patreon.com/Vibrant Velvet Voice. That's patreon.com/Vibrant Velvet Voice. Your support helps me to keep going and helps us to create compassionate community. And remember, smile, breathe deeply, and be grateful.